We were looking at the relationship between loneliness and the severity of Parkinsonism over time, trying to see which one of those two is more important for impacting the other. In these two studies, the Rush Memory and Aging Project and the Minority and Aging Research Study. So since the late 90s, they've been following older adults who are willing to do annual evaluations, willing to then donate their brains after death. And they were looking at a whole host of things, including they had a neuro exam with the Unified Parkinson's Disease Rating Scale, as well as these kind of objective ratings of loneliness. They haven't looked at that relationship over time toward, does loneliness lead to more Parkinsonism, or does Parkinsonism lead to more loneliness? So in order to actually answer that with this data, we ran what's called a mixed multi-level model, which is essentially just a fancy way of essentially looking at over time the fact that people have different starting points and different trajectories. So what we mean is that those who are lonelier were having higher levels of Parkinsonism. Also, those who have more Parkinsonism are lonelier too. So we're seeing a bidirectional relationship. But what was interesting is that those who are lonelier to start off with had a higher rate of worsening Parkinsonism over time, meaning that over time you were seeing worse Parkinsonism in those that were lonelier, whereas those who had worse Parkinsonism, while they were lonelier relative to those who did not have that worse Parkinsonism, they weren't necessarily getting even lonelier and lonelier over time. So actually loneliness seemed to be the stronger predictor. And we didn't just see that in just the rate of change as a prediction, but then the overall kind of model variance explained. So where there was, I think, about 13% of the variability in Parkinsonism was explained by loneliness and its change over time, whereas only 7% of variability in loneliness was explained by Parkinsonism and its change over time. So my hypothesis, essentially those who are more socially connected, because social connection relates to a whole bunch of inflammatory processes that start to go into play when people are lonelier, which can then impact the disease and its kind of progression. So those who are inversely more socially connected, I think it really helps buffer against some of these inflammatory processes, some of these metabolic changes, threat monitoring that goes on in a way that really, as opposed to being directly disease modifying, maybe helps the brain then kind of modify and fight up against the disease.